Brock Purdy is he's changing how we view. I don't even say how we view an elite quarterback, right? Because there's been some traits that you just naturally, just not naturally, but you have to have to play the quarterback position. So you got to be accurate. You got to be able to, play on time. You have to be able to just make throws. You got to be able to understand the offense. Like those things, that has never changed. But I think the way that he's doing it, where he was drafted, has really kind of shaken up a lot of people. And there are still a lot of people that are struggling with giving him his flowers. I think there are still a lot of people that are struggling with what exactly it is that they're seeing. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm one of those guys. All right. So if you go a few months back or so, this is while Trey Lance was still on the team. At no point did you guys ever hear me say that Trey Lance was better or had played better than Brock Purdy in an NFL game or in a season. Like I never said that. All right. But always gave him the benefit of the doubt because, like, man, you got a small sample size. Like, let's see if, Trey continues to improve. Whatever, he has a really high upside, hard worker, doesn't have the reps, etc. Right? So I told you all these reasons why I would have kept Lance around and at least let him compete. They ended up training him. I also saw that coming as well. But with Brock Purdy and I still have to say, there was an episode where I was like, man, you better hope that Trey Lance is, and this is where Eric Crocker was wrong. All right. I said, you better hope that Lance reaches his full potential, because if not, it's going to be really hard to win a Super Bowl. Like Brock Purdy, like he's good. Like, yeah, but man, you're hitching your wagon on this, 6 foot, 215-pound quarterback, doesn't have the biggest of arms. Everything went great for him last year. It was all perfect around him, right? Like, is he going to continue that? And I'll be damned. Brock Purdy has continued it. All right. And not just continued playing well, but has played well to the highest extent, to the point where we are talking about MV Purdy. All right. We're talking about MVP. We're talking about right now in Vegas or anywhere you bet, Brock Purdy is the leader in odds for MVP. Like, he has the best odds to win it. And I started to think about, like, how did we get here? Okay. And there is still one thing that I do want to see. I talked to my guy, Chris, about this. He's like, Crock, you need to talk about this on your show. I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to talk about it because they're going to think I'm hating. But I'm not hating. There's one thing I would still like to see. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. But first and foremost, Brock Purdy, one thing he has done since showing up has been an amazing facilitator. I think he has done very well. I feel very comfortable when he's back there throwing the ball. I never hold my breath before he throws the ball. Matter of fact, I feel like on the other end of it, there's going to be a big completion or a big gain, or things are going to go like in a positive direction for the 49ers. Like, that's what it feels every time. All right. Obviously, he doesn't have the biggest of arm, and I don't think you need to have a big arm to be good at the NFL. I always say, well, you don't need a big arm until you need a big arm. Like, that's kind of my saying. I say it with speed as well. You don't need speed until you need speed. And if you are a quarterback that understands, I don't have a Josh Allen arm, you can play in a way to where you don't need to have a Josh Allen arm. And that's what we see 99% of the time from Brock Purdy, which I'm not going to lie, I did not think that was possible. I think everyone thinks that you have to have this amazing arm to be good at the NFL level. And I don't think so. Or you have to be able to throw like Josh Allen. I don't think so either. It helps, right, to be able to launch a ball. But also with some of those guys, you see, they aren't as great with anticipatory throws. Well, why? Because they can rely on their arm strength to drill a ball in there. So they can wait a tick longer. And I think we saw some of that from Trey Lance as well, right? Not playing on time, waiting, and then, okay, I'm just going to throw a fastball in there. We see that with Josh Allen. We see that with Mahomes. It gets him in trouble a lot as well. But really, on a consistent basis, you know what I'm saying, 90% of the time is going to be how well are you seeing the field? How well are you reading defenses? And are you understanding what the offense is asking of you? And I would say right now with Brock Purdy, he's doing that at the highest level, not just, for the 49ers and their offense. And I've said all along, really this year, I'd say by week 5, I was like, there's nobody functioning at a higher level in their offense as Brock Purdy is in his offense. Like, I don't know how much better you can play in the offense that we're seeing Brock. Now, does he have some things that benefit him or whatever? Yeah, he has some terrific weapons. He has a terrific offensive mind with his head coach. You can watch a game and just see, man, there's some good things that he's set up in a good situation, but at the end of the day, you still have to deliver. And he's not only delivering, I could see if it like got really weird at times. It doesn't really get weird until one moment. I'll tell you that one moment where it does get a little weird. But for the most part, when you look at the MVP talk, I understand how you might look at it and be like, is he an MVP quarterback? Because he makes it look so easy. I wrote some stats down here. He's had back-to-back 300-yard plus passing games. All right, almost 700 yards in the last 2 games, 6 touchdowns to 1 interception. And the 1 interception, it could have been a miscommunication. You had IU come straight down the stem. You had Purdy trying to lead him a little bit more, thought he was going to kind of bring it in a little bit more and hook it up, whatever. Miscommunication on those guys went off IU's hands, intercepted. All right. But outside of that, man, he's been playing football at a really high level. All right. I think he's leading in most of the important stats right now. Completion percentage, he's balling, right? 73% of his passes, he's completing. That's amazing. But to me, it's like, I don't really care so much about that because, completion percentage, it can be inflated by, screens and things like that. He ain't throwing a whole lot of screens. Matter of fact, out of like most of the quarterbacks right now that we would talk about, especially like the last MVPs, and I've seen this stat floating around, he has the lowest, matter of fact, he is 28th in his completions at or around or at or behind the line of scrimmage. So he ain't throwing a lot of screens. And I hear this check down thing with 49er quarterbacks. We heard it with Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm like, Jimmy Garoppolo is not checking the ball down. Now, he might play in timing and rhythm, and he might throw these slants and hit these windows, but he's not really checking down. It's just a kind of more of the offense or whatever. Well, Brock is not only doing that, he's hitting the deep throws at a higher percentage of anyone else. He's been extremely efficient. I think last year we saw that he was number 1 by a large margin in the history of like in the NFL in passes 10 to 20 yards, like by a wide margin, like number 1 completion percent. Like they're like, oh, there's no way he can sustain that. Well, I'll be damned. He sustained that. So at some point, even someone like me who was skeptical, and thinking like, there's gonna be maybe some coming down to earth moment, and then okay, when that happens, like what goes on from there. I haven't really seen a come down to earth moment. All right, not in the sense of like just his play. I feel like every game, even in the Vikings game, even in the Bengals games, I thought, I think he played very well outside of this one moment when we kind of needed him to play well in that moment as well. And maybe he got a little tight. We'll discuss that as well because I'm going to get to that. But overall, there's a lot of talk about Brock Purdy being the MVP. You continue to see people kind of pushing back. But from what it looks like to me, again, there's nobody really playing the quarterback position better than Brock Purdy right now. So definitely should be MVP. I know Dak Prescott is in the conversation. I see Manly Shavers in here, and he says they just put Dak over Brock Purdy for now. So maybe that had to do with the Philadelphia Eagles win. I can understand that, even though 49ers just beat them, and he threw for 4 touchdowns or whatever it was. All right, but I understand. Like, I understand if you're like, okay, Dak Prescott, like he is playing very well, but man, Brock, he has shut a lot of people up, and I think a lot of it has to do with one, like where he was selected. You typically you don't see that. You know what I'm saying? You don't see a 7th round guy, smaller, look a little frenetic at times, doesn't have the big arm, play well. Then even when he does, it's like, okay, there's going to be that coming down to earth moment. And it just hasn't. He's just been good, and like really kind of getting better and better and better. So you won't hear any pushback from me on how good he is. If you guys say he's the best quarterback ever, the next Joe Montana, I believe you. Like, I won't push back on that. There are certain players where once they do certain things, I'm just like, okay, you won't hear me push back against any agenda or whatever is out there. I would like to see one thing.